Welcome to Soul Speaks 5D, where we do everything spontaneously, creatively, imaginatively, uh, courageously, and I forgot one, intuitively. We have a new friend in the house, Kelly, and real happy to sit down with her. She reached out to us, and she is a testament to the fact of what I say over and over. If you're right, you're going to get an answer. It might take a while. So, but she goes by Kelly. Is it Balker? Is that how you pronounce it? Yeah,
Yeah.
Kelly Balker Medium on Facebook. And we'll talk to her about some of um, her other presences on social media, should she have any. And I did do some research, but this was when we set the thing up, and it's been a while. So I can't remember everything. But I know one thing that I did get is you've been in this for quite some time. You definitely have some abilities, no doubt. And you've got, quite a wealth of experience from what I could gather. Now I'm remembering the energy of everything versus the things that I came across and some of the stuff you submitted some stuff to me as well. But yeah, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming in and honoring us with your presence and sharing space with us. We love to get to know new people, and that's what it's all about, just connecting dots. So welcome,
Oh,
and
yes.
welcome from Maine.
Yay. I have not been at this, however, for a long time. I might have throughout my different lifetimes, but
Right.
this lifetime, it's only been about a year and a half.
Wow.
I know. And yes, I do have some abilities.
Yeah.
And I say that not from an ego standpoint. I say that honestly, I have developed the ability to be a pretty darn good radio. So
Yeah.
things can come through me pretty quickly and easily.
Oh,
And I'm just along for the ride.
we're gonna have to play with this. We were just having a discussion with one of our friends. I don't know if you watched Pamela from Higher Vibrations.
Yes.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of collaboration with some other friends, and we were talking about her gifts, which she's had since she was, a baby. And one of those was mediumship skills. We were talking about the differences because I came across a lot of, when I woke up, just because of the way I set it up, I guess, every couple of weeks I would be running into a psychic medium, and it just was this whole stepping stone for a couple of years. So I got to work with a lot of them. I got to work on my skills. They just came out, I guess, through osmosis or whatever. But I recognized a real difference between someone that's straight medium and some of these other attributes, or at least the way they come out, like channeling or transmitting, or that type of thing. So I think this is a really good conversation to have for a couple of reasons. Another reason is because, as we know, there are people waking up every day, and waking up is a lot of things. It could be, 9/11, you mean, wasn't what the media told us, or it could be gifts coming in. It could be, well, I'll leave it at that. And the linear time thing doesn't matter, right? Like, we have a friend of ours, one of our collaborators, she's been awake less than a year, and yet she's a she's a constant flow of pure source energy. It's kind of funny to watch, but my point being, the tenure of somebody self-professed as being awakened is nothing to do with linear time, because people can go through something in 10 months that others went 10 years.
Right.
And it's just, it's just the different pieces of the puzzle. So I think that's important, because there are people waking up. A lot of the people like myself that woke up, say on or about 2012, one of the first things we did was we wanted to tell everybody, and then we couldn't understand why people didn't listen to us. So hearing some of these stories that have happened more recently, I think are helpful for people. So yeah, so a year and a half now, you told us, or you told me before we started the show, that you have lived in Maine, beautiful state. I've got a very good friend that lives there, by the way. I should connect y'all.
Now you'll have two.
Terry Willette. Yes, we have two now. But you said you're living in the same spot within 5 miles your whole life. So
Yeah.
you have this literally paradise kind of life, just based on the land alone, because it's probably the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful states I've ever been in. And then what? Out of nowhere comes this ability to like the cosmic switchboard operator got turned on. How did it happen for
Oh my God.
you?
Well, okay. So I wasn't a girl that had any kinds of abilities or any of that kind of thing throughout my life. Basic small town girl. I live in a town of less than 1,000 people. It's a Baptist town.
Mm,
I was born a seeker. There's no question that I was born a seeker. And the only thing I had to reach out to was the Baptist church. And so I did. And I I developed my spiritual roots within the Baptist religion. And the tricky part of that is I could feel the Holy Spirit. When I
yeah.
prayed and my heart opened, I felt my connection. And I felt the love of God. And so I used the words I understood. I prayed through Jesus and I prayed to God, Father in heaven, and all this kind of stuff. But I would just blossom like a flower. I just would open up when I would talk, when I would talk to them. And then I would go to church and when they talked about the love of God and the love of Jesus, it was wonderful. But then they would tell me that all my Catholic friends were going to hell and all my Jehovah Witnesses friends were going to hell and my Jewish friends were all going to hell. And I'm like, the love that I feel from this God, it just makes no sense. This makes
Mm.
no freaking sense. So I was definitely conflicted. So I've definitely been on a path, but I want to share something that speaks to your talking about the time, because my guides gave me a download, I don't know when, back along, and they said, it does not matter how you pray. It does not matter how you connect. Every single time that you are taking a breath, and if you're alive, you're taking a breath, and you open your heart up to the more, to the all, whatever that is, they've shown me, I've had downloads where they've shown me, every different way to pray, the different buildings, the different religions, all that kind of stuff. But every time that you do with an open heart, with a loving heart, you are creating a thread of energy that never goes away. And those energy threads are creating, they've used the term a bridge between us and across the veil. So when I had lived my whole life, 60 years of having this relationship in my heart with whatever it was, knowing through my heart, through faith, that I felt supported by whatever it is, and lived, praying and whatever throughout my life. And then, of course, I had the phases of life. I went through my law of attraction phase and all that kind of stuff as I started to open my mind and let go of the dogma of religion that told me that, we weren't even allowed to meditate in the Baptist church. You couldn't surrender your mind because the devil was going to take you over and you're going to be going to hell and it's going to be bad. So we don't want that. So part of what they showed me was that I had been building this bridge my whole life. So then once, and I'll tell you what precipitated it, but so once I finally just let go of the dogma and dove myself into the metaphysical side of the internet, basically, it was like taking the cork out of the genie's bottle, and things just started to happen. And I honestly, Todd, I don't have 2 days alike. I've had earth-shattering things happen this morning.
Yeah.
It just
Welcome.
rocked your friggin' world. And I
Yeah.
mean, so it is happening incredibly fast, but it's because of that for me, and I can only speak for me, it's because of having that loving, supportive, held in the palm of the hands relationship with the all.
Yeah.
And now it's just, I have a different way of talking about it is all.
So, wow, this is fascinating. We're going to have fun unpacking this. So you're, because I mean, I'm from the South. I was raised Catholic till I was about, 9, I mean, less and less involved as those years went by. But then I moved to Dallas, Fort Worth, which was the Baptist Bible Belt. And I never been in a Baptist church, man. I've been in a Catholic, and I walked in and it was like a lunchroom cafeteria. I'm like, wow. And then of course you got the music, some of them, I went to different ones over the years. So it sounds like, and plus you're in a small town. So that speaks to a lot too. My curiosity is, and I totally get the secret thing. I totally
Right.
get that. I think a lot of people can relate to that. But the
Absolutely.
way it happened, I mean, you're, like a lot of these folks, are 45 and over, tech challenged, kind of like right before the computer thing, right? But you mentioned that, okay, something brought you to that point.
Yep.
Something had you start looking at. So had you heard of terms such as ascension or sacred union, or just these light workers, star seeds and all that?
I'd heard about lots of that kind of stuff. Anything that had anything to do with ETs was like, that would freak me all out. And that's a whole story that we can get to, because I'm going to be the poster child for that. I mean, oh my Lord, how fast that's all come in. But anyways, for me, it was about probably 5 or 6 or 7, give or take, years ago. And things just started to change in my life. I've always been a very happy, very Pollyanna, glass half full person.
Right.
I said on a different interview that I think one of the very first chapter books I ever read was Norman Vincent Peale's Power of Positive Thinking. And that impacted me. And I knew that when I thought good thoughts, that good things happened. And I've lived my life that way.
Right.
Then I learned about the law of attraction. It started with The Secret. Then I found the Abraham Hicks stuff and all of that, which was my first. The Abraham Hicks thing was it wasn't the absolute first, but it was the first really resonating channeled material. And I just knew it was true. I felt that it was true. And I just didn't let my brain take me down any kind of path with it. I just let it teach me what it taught me, and it taught me a tremendous amount. And so, but then things started, like I say, started to go down a hill a little bit. And as the universe can do, your angels, they give you a little sweet tap, and then they give you a little pat, then they give you a nudge, then they dig out the 2x4 and they whack you upside the head.
That's my
If you don't
that's my
listen,
line.
if they don't listen, they whack you and whack you and whack you until you come up and pay attention.
Yeah.
So basically it was physical health kinds of issues, family kinds of issues. And I was losing my joy. The voice that's in my head always has been a happy voice. And all of a sudden this voice was bitching all the time. And that
Now, how long ago was this?
I'd say about 5 or 6, 7 years.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
So I had some health things starting, and I'd been hit with about 3 or 4 big lung things right within about a 6 or 8 month period of time. And so I was really debilitated in my respiratory system. So as I do when I'm trying to learn about anything, I dive into the internet and I find Wim Hof and his breathing techniques. And are you familiar with Wim?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the Wim Hof breathing, what I experienced was I started to feel that altered mentation.
Right.
I could I would feel that. And I just started to stretch it. I just started to use the breathing and stretch those periods where I was coming into the universe. I was blending.
Right.
And I didn't know that. Now looking back, once you figure it out, you're like, oh, that's why that happened. And they took me to this and they showed me that. They've been right with me my whole life, leading me. Of course they have. And loving me and cherishing me and giving me guidance and 2x4s upside the head when I needed it.
Yeah.
So I was going along this thing with the Wim Hof. I started meditating. I got introduced to Joe Dispenza's work. And I was having really awesome meditations. All kinds of experiences were happening. my guides were really trying to get my attention and bring it into the reality. Take me from the woo-woo over here to the nuts and bolts over here of this is real. This is real. So all these different things are happening. So now there's a variety of things. The 4 or 5 years has gone on. And so now it's, I think it was 21. It was the April of 21 when I've been happily married for 42 years. And for me, the beginning of change always happens when I tell my love, when I tell my Michael, this is what's happening with me. And I said to him finally, I'm not happy. And he immediately thinks it has to do with me being married to him, typical guy. And it didn't. It had to do with what was going on internally for myself. I was gearing up. I was gearing up energetically. Now I know that. And once I confessed that to him and just was able to say, I've got to figure it out. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not okay. That started the process of healing. And so it would be 2 years ago in the summertime, I started counseling. It was the last summer before my last year of teaching. And I started counseling and I started to share with her some of the experiences I was having in meditation. And one day she looked at me and was doing it through the Zoom. She said, you need to look up what it means to be an empath. And I said, oh, I'm very empathic. I'm a nurse. I'm a teacher. I'm very empathic. No. She said, you need to look up what it means to be an empath. And when I dove into the internet, that is when everything just started going 90 miles an hour. And that was in November. In January, I channeled my guides for the first time.
What was that?
Oh, it's friggin' awesome.
I mean, did you know it was going to happen?
I knew I was trying. So
okay, so you were attempting
I happened onto somebody that was talking about doing automatic writing on the internet, okay, on YouTube. Automatic writing. And when I would get into this altered state, I mean, I was blended, I was flying, and I would start to write and I would do all right until I'd get to a word I couldn't spell. I can't spell to save my life. And I'd get to a word I couldn't spell and it would bring me out of meditation. And back then it was more tentative. Now it's not, but back then it was. And so that would frig it all up. So when I was in counseling, my counselor began laying the foundation of doing some inner child work. And she told me to journal. And it was the same thing. I'd get going and connected to my inner child, couldn't spell a word, and it would frig it all up. So I started using my phone. I would put the voice recorder on and I'd go into my meditative state. I'd bring in my inner child. We'd do the work and it worked really great. And I told my therapist about it and she was like, can I steal that? That's a great method. I said, yes, you can, because it is a good method. So one day I'm, doing my meditations. I'm having all kinds of freaky experiences in my meditations. I've tried the automatic writing. That's not really working, but I know that I'm at a precipice. And my husband goes away on a fishing trip, so I know I'm not going to be interrupted. I get in, take my phone, I lay it on my chest, I turn on the recorder, and I lay there and I set my intention and I go into meditation. And they were right there just telling me what to do. I started to just kind of chant, let the words come, let the words come. And I tell people who are trying to begin these things, you got to put the car into gear. It's harder to go from sitting like this to them speaking through you. Then if your mouth is going, then they can take it over. Same thing with light language. Yeah, it's the light language is the same thing. You could put yourself into gear, and then once you've got that into gear, let the words come, let the words come. Then you move your consciousness out. And then pretty soon, the light language will just flow.
Right.
You just move your consciousness. Well, I didn't really know that's what I was doing, but that's what I was doing. And my guides came through. I asked their name because on YouTube, they told me I should. And I get a name. They tell me Lacroix. Sounds kind of French. I had nothing about
Lacroix.
Lacroix.
Why does that name?
Lacroix. it, to me, it stood for the cross,
La
la
Cruz.
cruz,
La
la cruz.
Cruz.
And they said it with a drawl, with that French accent too,
La
which was kind of weird.
Cruz.
Like I said, in this lifetime, I have very little anything about French. I'm gonna throw something at my little dog.
Now, these are this what the voice you're referring to is your team. Some people call it team, family,
Yeah,
aspects, higher self, soul. I mean, all multidimensionality. Now, had you ever heard any light language? I guess you had been on the internet a little bit, so you must have run across some things. But
I had not.
oh, you
So
hadn't. Oh, okay.
light language is another different story. So light language came in. So that happened in January. I did my first mediumship reading in March, and light language came in June.
Okay,
when
hang on. That was in, okay, so so you had okay, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I was just curious because I'm picturing your husband of 40 something years hearing the light language going,
Oh,
what that?
yeah, no, he don't hear it.
Now, so
That's not his thing.
okay, all right. So okay, so this, because everybody's is different, right? Like I can relate to a lot of what you're saying through my own experience, but then also hearing other people. Some people get images, some people hear words, some people hear words, but they're not like audible words. Some people don't even know what's being said. They just, like you said, the consciousness moves and wow, I don't know, like you'll hear people say, I gave a session and I channeled, and then as soon as I got done, the people said, hey, what did you say? And they're like, I don't remember. So I like to think about the recording too. That's smart. That's a good tip for people, I think.
Yes.
Now, so it comes in this first time you're talking about. Within a couple of months, you're doing your first mediumship. I really want to dive into that, but what kind of happened between that first one and then getting to the point where you're like, oh, I'm going to be doing sessions and utilizing my mediumship to help people? Like, what happened in between? Were you getting like guidance as to what you're going to be doing and who you were, who they are, things like that?
Not really, not
Mm.
exactly that. Guidance, yes. Like specifics, that freaked me out. I couldn't, at that time, I couldn't do the specifics. And the frequency that was coming through was the frequency that I was very familiar with. It was that little girl praying, feeling that love, feeling
Yeah,
that energy. It was that energy that had been with me my whole life. And
yeah,
it was comfortable and it was ease. It was, I'm not very good at all those clairs, but it isn't like I hear a sentence and repeat the sentence. It is just a knowing. And sometimes the knowing
right,
comes, I can't find the word for the knowing,
right.
but the knowing, and I'm digging for the word. So I'm not exactly sure what that all means, but that's how it works for me. And at that time, it was pretty well sentences, like it was knowings with one word after another kind of knowing.
Mhm.
Now it's not like that now. Now I call it the pixie dust treatment. It's like bam, and you're like, oh, and it would take you 20 minutes to explain what they just gave me.
Yeah,
That's how it's working now, and it's
yeah,
freaking the hell out, I'll tell you that. It really has the potential to, but I'm doing pretty good. So far, both feet are on the ground, and I know I'm just a radio. But so that couple of months, I would go into meditation, I would channel, and they would bring through guidance. And a lot of the guidance that they were giving me at that time was about how I saw the world, how I saw people, and helping me to see through their eyes. I remember in one of my very first downloads after the first one, they brought through a teaching around the homeless person on the street. And I live in the country. We don't see homeless people on the street. So that's kind of that in itself is a thing, it's like a big thing. You go to a city and people actually live on the street. That just blows my mind because I'm from the country. It isn't like that. I'm also from a place that gets to be 40 below zero. People don't live on the street.
Yeah. I was
Although
homeless for,
actually, now that I say that, that's not true. People do, God bless them, people do live on the street in Maine, they do. But in my
wow.
world,
And
in my
40
world,
below.
oh yeah, it gets cold.
I
But
was homeless for 2 years when I woke up, and I think the coldest it ever got was like maybe 30. I don't
it's
think
very cold.
I couldn't do the
It's very cold up here.
yeah.
So anyway, they were bringing through, the perspective that I could spend all my time trying to trying to develop this gift, and I was no better or no worse than the person on the street that spends all their time
Right,
just meeting their daily needs. And that's
right,
exactly how they worded it. They
right.
said, through the eyes of Source, we basically, it was kind of the energy was, we really think it's great that you're doing what you're doing, but we think it's great that they're doing what they're doing too.
Yeah, of
And
course.
we don't see any difference in it.
Right.
That was a big concept for somebody. That that is a tremendously huge concept for a human who is born with duality,
Yeah,
agreeing to duality, to be able to say that it's all the same.
yeah,
That's big. So anyway, they're giving me all these teachings and they're helping me develop, they're helping me to develop and get clearer because, I can remember thinking, what does crazy look like? What does crazy look like? All of a sudden I'm going in and I'm speaking. Am I making it up?
yeah,
Is this a fantasy?
yeah,
What the hell is this? What's
yeah.
going on? I'm a friggin' almost 60-year-old woman at the time. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? But yet I knew it was true. I knew
Yeah.
it was true. And I watched an interview or a discussion with you and is it Pamela that's the vibration something?
Yeah, yeah, Pamela.
And then she
Elsa.
had an Elsie.
Elsa
Elsa
Dillon.
was, the three of you were talking, and that's a whole friggin' story of how I was led to meet you all. The guides had me by the scruff of the neck, taking me into all of your whatever. It was like, oh, and then oh. And then this morning when I put the thing on and it had all three of you in the same thing, I went,
Yeah.
okay, I
That's
guess
funny.
this is what we're doing. This is my new tribe, evidently. So get ready. You got a new one.
Yes. So a couple things I think are important too, because I just know from doing this for so long and the opportunity that you're providing, what you're saying about how this comes in and the questions that we ask ourselves, even to this day. Like, I mean, after all we've been through, I mean, even go back a month, 2 months, end of last year, middle of this summer. I mean, some of these energetic tsunamis that have come through and just ripped the band-aids off. I mean, like you're going, what the F is going on? But it is okay. I guess is what I'm saying. It is okay. It is normal to have this internal dialogue that questions, I guess in essence, your own sanity, or what is sanity, or is there, and then I think the reference to the homeless people. I mean, I look at the way my soul set this up the first 2 years to be in that state. And what you learned is one of the things I learned right away. And I actually learned that the people in the streets, and I'm not saying all of them, because there was a lot of mentally affected people that were released in the 90s. I came to find out later that are kind of like recycled through the system. But people on the streets that I met, they speak our language. They're actually drinking the Kool-Aid that we're drinking. You can walk up to somebody and they'll say, well, I'm a prince, or I come from another planet, I've had many lives, and you'll have these conversations. Now, going back to and connecting this to some other things that might be helpful for the people is the whole thing about the discovery of being an empath and how that associates with what you see on the streets, because a lot of people a lot of sensitive empaths have really, really struggled to fit in. And so they're just now getting to a point where they're starting to realize the strength of the empathic ability. And I like to say, as a reminder for myself, you know, this telepathy and intuition coming on full blast, that's fantastic. But it's the empathy, to me, that really is the bridge. In other words, and you could probably speak to this because I'm going to love to get into some of the stuff that you wrote to me that we can put on the table. But when you have a life review, your thoughts, words, and actions are felt within your field by everything that feels them. So like when we said something or thought something or did something that wasn't so cool, we feel that what we did to the other person because we're one. So this is where I really feel like the empathic part hasn't been put up on the same level as the telepathy and intuition. And I think it's so important. That's really, to me, where the rubber meets the road and where you really learn how to walk the talk, is to really, without overcompensating or depleting yourself, but actually being accountable, being the co-creator, the responsible co-creator, mature soul that thinks, speaks, and acts in alignment. Because like you said, they were giving you all this stuff, and then now you got to go put it into this body and function as a human being, right?
Right.
No, so just let me ask you this. Did you struggle much? Were you challenged much with the with the part of the download that went to the ego, right? You know, like wow, this is, you know, I'm doing this. I mean, you know, in those moments of sanity when you're beyond the, hey, I'm not crazy, I know this is going down. Did you struggle at all with that? Trying to keep it contained, or you know.
I think for me, I want to speak very well to this because I think it's very important. It is ego that takes these beautiful churches and turns them to shit.
Yeah.
Ego is the thing that, so I knew that part of religion was the part that repelled me.
Right.
And my development, though it has been incredibly fast, there's been times where it has gone like, it slowed right down to nothing, and then it goes again, and then it slows right down to nothing. And I know that has been to help me keep my feet very firmly on the ground, because gosh, Todd, wouldn't you think that in the beginning, I don't watch the news much, and I don't want to, and I don't want to know about what's happening in the world. It isn't who I am. That's not part of this journey for me. But what little I do know of things like Jim Jones and drinking the Kool-Aid, you know, you made that reference. Probably when Jim Jones started out, he probably was connected. He probably was opening up and getting these beautiful downloads of information, but then it grabbed a hold of his ego.
Right.
And for me, I feel very comfortable because I hear it resound in my mind.
Right.
I'm not doing shit. Kelly's not doing anything.
Right.
I'm bringing them to the party.
Right.
And that came through to me in the very, very beginning. It's like, I don't want anybody to that it is so important, because you can't let.
Right.
That's why these new awakenings that I said, like even this morning, crap is happening for me all the time. And some really big things are starting to present themselves as a possibility. And it is blowing my mind. But I'm also,
This is awesome.
I mean, well, I mean, I don't know. Will any of it happen? I don't know. I know that they are bringing through possibilities.
Is it collective? We'll get into this, but is it collective information, personal information, or both?
I guess I'd have to say both, because they're showing me, they started a year ago, blowing my mind. When light language came in, light language brings with it the frequencies and the vibrations that help you to digest what is coming in. And it will solidify it within your psyche. It's like, okay, I know that now. I just know it. How do you know it? I don't friggin' know, but I know that I know it.
Yeah.
And light language is what brings that in. So when
Right.
light language started to come in, that was the only English words that came with my first download of light language was, so I can talk to my brothers and sisters. And I freaked out, crossed my little arms across my chest, pouted, stomped my foot, and didn't talk to anybody for about a week. I wouldn't meditate. I wouldn't meditate. I was pissed. Don't you tell me that I got weird things out there that I'm gonna be talking to. Frig that. Nope, 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 not doing it. Nope, nope, nope. Well, guess what? Oh yeah, I friggin' am. So these light languages, the light language is brought through these knowings and these openings, and what I keep saying to them, even just a month ago, Todd, I have a group of people that are very dear to me, and we meet on Mondays. And the reason we meet is for all of our expansion.
Are you meeting physically or online?
Yeah, with Zoom, through Zoom.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Through Zoom with some humans that live on the planet.
Yeah.
And they, well, in my world, you got to.
I agree. I agree.
And what we wanted to play around with, and we've only been doing this for a couple, probably 2 months now. What we wanted to play around with was me to be able to get completely out of the way and have questions come. If Kelly has to think up the question, my consciousness is still pretty close. I wanted to be able to practice moving way out and letting the purity of the answer come through, getting out of the way. So I needed that other. So we've been doing it. So probably about a month ago, like I say, we've probably done 8 meetings, and about a month ago, all of this ET stuff comes through. It's stuff that I knew. They've been dropping it in. They've been chumming the water, is what my dad would say. You know, they've been trying to reconcile my mind to these different understandings and to take away the fear. And this was the first time that they came through. Well, at the time I thought it was an orb, and now I know it was a ship. At least I'm pretty sure it was. It was a tiny little thing, and I can tell you about that if you want me to, but I saw that. I told Graham, is the guy that's part of this group, and I said, when I'm really out there, ask about it. And so they asked, what did Kelly see? Why is she seeing it? And they came through with a beautiful answer. And basically they said, we're part of her guides. We're part of her group.
Yeah.
We've always been part of her group right from the beginning, but she and us have an agreement that she's not going to be afraid, because it's important to me that I'm not living my life afraid some creepy shit's going to jump out at me. I have no desire for that. And so that agreement is there, and they just laid it out. That was a month ago.
Okay.
And now they're showing me about interdimensional stuff and abilities, and I'm
Let's come back to that. I want to segue in a couple things. This is great. Let me ask you quickly.
Okay. I'll try
this group that you're meeting with, I'm just curious because that's how my mind works. And I also am always thinking of collaborations. I just be upfront. But because I think it's important to broadcast and make available a lot of things that have been going on that haven't been, to include rituals, to include little groups coming together. And I'm not saying, because I think the more transparency we have, the better. So how did that come about, and how often do you meet? I mean,
my friends?
Yeah.
My group. Okay. Well, my friend, I did the Kevin Moore show. I was on the Kevin Moore show. And when that aired, that I can't remember what month it was. It was back in the wintertime. When that aired, things blew up for a while. Lots of attention, lots of texts and messages and stuff. this man reached out to me on, because I put my Facebook thing and he friend in my site, and he went on there, and so he could message me, and he just, was like, I think you're awesome. I really resonated with you, blah, blah, blah. Do you mind? Can I ask a question? And I was like, yeah, of course. And whatever he asked, I answered, and we went back and forth. He had really legitimate questions, and I answered it to the best that I knew how, at the time, and which changes every friggin' day. But anyway, so we were going back and forth, and it felt right. Energetically, it felt right. But I also was being really inundated and really navigating the world. I'm from a very little world. My
Right.
world is small. And so this is a lot. Okay. He sends me, he is a musician and a songwriter, and his beautiful wife has a lovely voice. She sings. He sent me and I used to write and play the guitar when I was younger. So I know that connection to music. He sent me one of their songs, and he just said, you are doing so much for everybody else. I wanted to do this for you. It's not that great. Basically, he was quite humble about it. It was beautiful. He
Uh-huh.
said, but I want to share this.
Mm.
And that song, I could feel the vibration of them in that song.
Yeah.
And and so we never even did a one-to-one. We never even had a one-to-one. One day I had time. I said, you guys hanging around? You want to chat? I
Cool.
sent a Zoom link. We started to be friends, and then I started to be that when these big things happen, Todd, I need to process it.
Right.
I need to make sense out of it with somebody that's not going to think I'm nuts. And so I started that kind of a relationship with
Yeah.
them, he and his wife. Then his mom got involved, and we came up with the idea, because every other time that I had another person there, it was about them. I
Right.
was doing a mediumship thing, or I was doing a one-to-one with somebody, and I'm focused on you. This was a gathering to allow Kelly to focus on Kelly,
Right.
and to focus on my gifts coming to whatever level that we could. And it has taken its own
Yeah.
its own trajectory.
Well,
But
I think that's why I know, I've always known, but I can feel it becoming ready. And that is that what you're talking about, this organic unfoldment of co-creation and collaboration, it's so powerful
oh, so
because it's not something that's been pre-designed. It's actually following our personal awakenings, but there's two or more, where two or more gather. So these are, and they're real time intel. So
yep.
we've had these traditional things in the past. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm not throwing shade on them. There's a lot of stuff Soulology's left behind. I mean, we've all left behind stuff, you could say, things that got us to a certain point, but there's such fresh new coding and information, everything in the present moment, because we're becoming more and more present. And that's why that's why I was asking. And I would just add this too, that like, there's a lot of this going on, and a lot's been going on. We've actually broadcast women's groups to get together once a month over the years, and Higher Vibrations does this a couple times a week, and it's very much like what you're talking about. It's just 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, just unraveling, working through things and so on. Just nothing scripted, just boom, here we go. And it normally carries recent intel, which, like you said earlier, is probably both, because if it seems it's for the individual, as the individual goes, so goes the collective. I mean, we're all connected. So I wanted to, with your permission, I wanted to read a little bit of what you wrote to me last week about, kind of like you were telling me, what are we going to do on the show? And here's some things to think about. Do you mind?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. So the first thing is that your intention to have a conversation with my guides? Yes. I love channeling for people who have a knowledge and a broad understanding. It makes for great questions. We've done this before. I want to kind of tighten this up and understand you. So just remember that I am not a psychic, but I can bring through incredible knowings about the basics of reality. And then a great joke, just small things like that. I thought that was funny. But what you're saying is you look at yourself as a conduit, right? You look at yourself as a channel that picks up what's needed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then it says just some things to think about. You can connect to Mother Earth. You have a team of angels who work with the chakra system, who I can talk to individually. The angel team includes Ariel and Michael, which is interesting because those are the first two that I came across.
Cool.
Also brought through Christ consciousness and a collective physical and non-physical other dimension, timelines, incarnations, and realms. Okay, so I feel like yeah, let's do something. This is part of what I've been seeing is to again make these encounters, like I've been saying for years, Soulology is going mainstream because I see these different shows over the years, even now Gaia TV. I see people coming on these shows talking about the type of experience you've had or I've had or many of the people that will watch this, like it's some kind of unique proposition. We got 4,300 shows under our belt, and then we're only one platform. And I can tell you 90% of the people that have walked through this door are the 99%, number one. And number two, they've had these experiences. Most of them have the same story. Okay. They're not all exactly the same, but it's reality. And so I kind of went off on a tangent there, but this is what I'd like to take you up on that. Whatever you're most comfortable doing. I'm interested in all of it. But whatever you feel is, I mean, I don't know how you want to approach it. If you want me to ask specific questions, or if you want to tap into a specific type of energy, I'd love to hear more about the star family, but I'm open to anything and everything.
So when I get together with my little crew there and we play, we'll say things like, well, today we're going to focus on this and we're going to do that, we're going to do that. Well, guess what? They're going to bring through what they want to bring through.
Yeah.
Because once you open the door and Kelly steps out of the way, then they're going to, they know, number one, and this is really cool for anyone who ever listens to this, they know every single person because there's no time.
Right.
Well, now, so every person that ever is going to be drawn to this video, they already know, and they're talking right to them.
Right.
That energy, that's hard concept to grasp, but it's the truth. It just is the truth. So I do light language. I would just say, can we just do a little bit of my process and just kind of
whatever you want to do. I'm open.
This is what you say,
yeah.
Spontaneous. We're gonna
Spontaneous,
do it.
intuitive, creative, imaginative. Yeah.
Imaginative. Oh God, yeah.
And depending on what we're talking about or doing, courageous. Those are
will. Oh, it does. It's very vulnerable. You do have to be courageous. That's the Kelly piece. Honestly, I will give myself credit for that, because you do have to be courageous to put yourself out there. I mean,
well, and I think that's another great message. That's another great message for the because everybody's an impact. All right. It's just whether it's dormant or whatever. But I think that's another great takeaway for the expanding empath, is that it's okay. That's why none of them want to be in front of a camera, and they don't want to come out, and they don't want to go in the public, I mean, but it's okay now. And I feel like this is right in line with that. So thank you.
Right. All right. Well, I'm going to just turn it right over to them. So we're just going to start with taking a nice breath into our heart. And we're going to feel the edges of that space that we create within ourselves. I'm going to take another breath in. And we're going to just let it go again. We're going to take a nice breath in. We're going to send it down to Mother Earth, and we're going to thank Mother Earth for holding us in this moment. You know, as we use our intention and we see the beautiful flow of energy head down to Mother Earth, we know that she is transforming. She is taking anything that doesn't serve us, and she is giving us whatever frequencies and codes that we need. And that comes right back up on that beautiful flow of energy as we breathe it back into our chakra system. And then we send it to the cosmos, to the infinite cosmos, as far as it goes, as far as it can travel. And the same things are happening, transforming, gathering, and releasing. And that energetic, beautiful cycle is happening, whether you know that it is or not. But when we lend our intention to it, that's where the magic starts to happen. Asiarako no oko mañana ti katarakoso oniana matati karamozu. Ariara manyana kuniana katika atakira komozototira katarakomanana ana kototoromana nakiata katira kazarkatotoro komanana kati. Arakiara komozoko oka akrigata tuko ataro mokotor kiara kata. Say yes, dear ones. Say yes to the blessing of the light language as it comes forward. Ariara komo no kutika atakira katototo. As a mañana kototorukara mañana kia zakiara katatarakiara katatarakiara kata. Are ozara mañana tira katarakir katarakatara koturus madaniana kata. Grounding into Mother Earth with gratitude and love. Ariya kamakina nakatatira kazakatarako. O tamayana katati karakazoto onati katarakomato. There is great benefit for the human as they come together with like-minded individuals. There is a turning up of the energy. It is a joining together and turning the dial, shall we say, that increases the receptive ability of one such as this. She has been enjoying these interactions and feeling that beautiful, the burner turning up, so to speak, as it just gets all of the energy just moving, and it feels so wonderful and so good to her. So clear. That is probably the greatest thing. She would have us point out her shivering jaw to that not be concerned at all. That is just a physical manifestation that happens when we come through her. The light language for Kelly facilitated the opening of her mind to the reality beyond this reality. She knew of the spiritual reality. That was something that was comfortable and familiar to her, as she had participated a great deal at that level from the time she was a small child. But the idea of beyond, the reality of the physical and non-physical beings from all dimensions, timelines, and realms and incarnations, this was brought through to her on the frequency of the angels that came to her. She doesn't quite understand that yet. We are just beginning to give her that knowing. Many things are changing and happening in this present moment. What comes through in the present moment in the next present moment is different. And that we all know is a truth. We would ask you at this time if there is something, a direction perhaps you would have us go. There is so many truths and changes in this reality that it is difficult sometimes to pinpoint the exact trajectory for the conversation. Which direction, dear one, would you have us go?
So there's a lot of talk about deeply embedded programming that's leaving our field. Things such as perpetrator, victimhood, savior programming, and of course, death programming, fear programming. And that is occurring, quite palpably and evidently. At least that's what many people are transmitting. Is this occurring? Is there a cleaning out, a final, like a final trajectory where these things are going to be cleared, and gone from our human experience?
We give to her in this moment the visual that she sees often when the first time we gave it was the initial foundation for much of her knowing. And it is her as the present moment as the central point of origin, shall we say, and the infinite possible timelines that are before her. This was quite a concept to get through to her in the beginning, but we would bring this because this is not unfamiliar to you at all. There are infinite realities, infinite trajectories of time that are all happening now. So to answer the question comes from that standpoint of, yes, if that is the frequency that you are in, your frequency is resonating with that new earth. And many are beginning to. Kelly will often refer to herself as the poster child, because it is, if a simple woman from northern Maine can have her mind opened to this degree, then can't anyone. And we do not laugh, of course, but for your understanding, we would say it would make us chuckle when she says that. But there's some truth to that. There is truth to realizing that normal everyday people are choosing their frequency day by day, minute by minute, and more because of shows like yours, dear one, and all of the beautiful technology that gives so much access to information. So many more people are doing it. They may not do it from the standpoint of, I'm going to resonate with my soul family, my intergalactic family. That might not be, but they are doing it with the knowledge around creating their reality. Whatever they're doing it for, they are tending to their frequency in the present moment. And as you all know, that is the only power really that you all have. It is about the frequency that you are at is going to give you the outcome that you will get. It's just as simple as that. Humans want it to be so complicated. We have come through so many with the same message, but it is the truth of it. The reality that you want to experience, the new earth that you see in your mind, the way that you see it with all of its glory is on its way to you if you are in the vibrational vicinity of it. But so is everything going to shit too. The reality of it. We need people to understand that, not to have put these ideas of fear and being so concerned and worried about every thought. It isn't about that. It is about realizing that all of the different truths are exactly that. They are the different truths. And you can pick the beautiful cadre of the buffet of life. You can pick the timeline that you want. And when you ask, are these embedded deep-seated concepts of belief being released? Absolutely yes, because you have the ability to share the knowledge and the permission to let it go.
Mm.
Would you
Thank you.
ask anything else?
Yeah, we have a sister has a question. Her guides call themselves the Esuk. I don't know where they come from. And she was wondering if your guides, your team have a name. If they do, how do they refer to themselves if they do?
I'm just let a little mobster here. Kelly has been very resistant to names. This has just been something that has been a sticking point for her. On the very first transmission, we gave her the name La Cruz because it conjured in her the cross, which as a young girl in her early years, she had a cross that she clung to many, many times out of fear. And it represented to her the comfort of being held by a greater isness that kept her loved and safe, which is exactly, of course, what we are. La Cruz is certainly the energy, the first energy that came through, of course, is still very much a part of her team. What is very important, significant to explain is when one such as Kelly, who really is a bit of a blank slate, reaches and opens with love and intention for the highest good, there is no being that she cannot connect to. She struggles to put names to things, but even in that, we are bringing her along. She has begun to have comfort with her angels, and the angels can now come in and out by name, and she's able to handle that. She now knows the feeling when the intergalactic energy turns up. It's a mixture. It isn't all or nothing of anything. It is a beautiful mixture, but she knows the question comes forth. She opens her heart for the highest good, her intention. She doesn't have to say that. She sits here in the energy of love and light and the highest good. So when she opens for the answer to the question, the entities that have the best combination of energy to come through her is the energies that will come through. And she will get better and better with the names. This is something that her human self struggles a bit and throws a little bit of a monkey wrench, so to speak, into. But again, we would say to her, it's only been a year and a half since this all began, and there is an incredible relationship forming and trust and love that's forming between her and the all. And it's all working out exactly as it should.
There seems to be more and more evidence too of such things as self-healing, regeneration, growing younger, other qualities or attributes that might once have been considered supernatural, psychic, paranormal. Can you share with us anything in regard to that subject in terms of, validity or not, and also, maybe futile to try to linearize anything, but timelines in terms of what we might see if these things are occurring?
Ooh, lots of energy. Just a minute. Siara kototoroma ati katarakomozo ko utorko komanyana tokoto soko or katatarama katatiza kototorkamata ar kototoromatiza katotokomata atokoto soko utotokorkamata tarkia tarakatatoto. It is incredibly overwhelming for Kelly to have this energy come forth because she within herself sees the vastness of the truths that ride upon it. It is fantastical would be a word that she would use. And what we have given to her a vision of the possibility of looking from one dimension into another. We showed her to be able to part the curtain, so to speak, and peek in and perhaps watch an adult entity training a child entity in an ability that is commonplace within that dimension or realm. We asked her, would she not think that that would be handy? And indeed, she thought it would. Has that happened yet? No, it has not. Is it going to as soon as she can get out of the way? Is it possible for all of you? Absolutely, yes. The timeline from 1 second to the next, just like that. It's all about where you are vibrating. We show her the infinite amount of realms and dimensions that are out there. We show her all of the incarnations in different species, different bodies, being physical, being non-physical, having these abilities. They are all present. Humans, the timeline that you are on right now, humans are just starting to dip their toe into the remembrance of the abilities that they have. What the building blocks of this from your perspective that might even be farther outside of Kelly's understanding, the building blocks or the pieces that have got to come into place is the number one, permission, number two, the possibility, the idea that it is even possible. And then as people grow in their confidence and their trust in what is coming through, we will be able to work with you so that you get out of the way and open and allow it to happen. This morning, we showed her a beautiful representation. She has a experiential picture in her mind that we have been giving to her for some time. And this morning, we upped the ante a bit and gave her some more detail. And she can explain that if she chooses to. But it was looking at a room full of entities. We are showing her the intergalactic meeting of individuals who are very interested and invested in and caring and benevolent in their relationship with planet Earth. In that space, she has seen shapes. She's never seen very many details. This morning, we gave her some details. She walked over to a door that she has walked to many times in her mind. And the door opened, and before her, she sees a ribbon going through the infinite space. And there was a being standing beside her. The being took her hand, and when the being took her hand, they showed her in an instant being out on that beautiful ribbon that just went for infinity. Out, and then over here, and then back over here, and then back in their space. And she looked at him and asked him, "What is this? What are you trying to tell me?" We were telling her that this is how people travel. This is how other dimensions go amongst their day. They do not get into cars and travel across time and space the way humans do. Just her seeing that is going to begin, it's going to be one of the building blocks for her to let go of her human the coding, just as the inner coding that is so deep within her. She does not have the words to articulate it, but it's those beliefs. Those beliefs have got to be released in order for the true remembering of who and what you are. You are God. You have all the abilities that any entity can have. You just have forgotten. That is what the Earth School is about. You come forth forgetting everything and you remembering it all. If you had said to this one 2 years ago, only 2 short years ago, that she would be talking to somebody on her computer and bringing through these entities, she would have thought you were nuts. And she still looks at it with wonder. And we say this because all of you are on this journey, and the journey has to have the component of trust and faith that it is working out for the highest good. Wow. Do you have any other questions? Ooh. There's something I would like to share. I can't hear you. Are you talking?
Yeah, no, that's even better. Yeah, I was talking, but yeah, this
Okay.
is perfect.
Okay,
Yeah,
maybe.
share what you want to share.
I
Absolutely.
never know nowadays when weird shit happens. I never know, is that just me or is that what's actually happening?
It happens every day on this show.
Mm,
We had a
mm.
weird one a couple of days ago where the sister, her screen disappeared and a second screen of me appeared and it did all this crazy Pleiadian stuff for about an hour.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Go ahead.
I
Share.
feel that I want to, this is being pulled forward, okay?
Hmm.
Because it's part of who Kelly is. Right now, I'm just going to describe, I'm like a 50-50 being right now.
Hmm.
I'm half here and I'm half not. So we just have to go with it. It's like, that's only way I can explain it.
Hmm.
And um, as I said, I am a very Pollyanna person and I see the good in the world. And when I started in this journey and I had very limited any resources of people to talk to that had any kinds of experiences like this, almost none. Almost none. I really was an island to myself in it. And it was tough. It was hard. That's why this is so beautiful for me, for Kelly, because it's just so affirming. It's just so affirming that I'm not the only one that's going through all of these things. This is really happening exactly the way they're describing it. It's amazing. It's just amazing. But so different ones though would say, well, what rituals do you do to protect yourself? And I was like, I don't need any freaking rituals. I'm about love and light. And when there's love and light, you don't have to worry about any of the darkness. So it was like, no, I wouldn't even entertain the idea. Well, I was cleaning house one day, and generally when my guides come through to me, I sit down, kind of settle my energy like I did in the beginning with some breaths and just flow the energy, and then just boom, we stop playing. This particular day, I'm puttering around, I'm thinking about stuff, and my jaw starts to shake, and I know they want to talk. So I just sit down with my phone and I let them come through. A very weird, squeaky voice came through. Very, very, very weird light language came through. It was definitely an intergalactic being in a how I would describe a pure form. I think that for my comfort, they blend, and it so there's some familiar, some not so familiar, so that I'm getting more and more. But this day, this is pure intergalactic somebody. Okay, they didn't give me a name, but I know because my face is just my face typically, but my face is going all weird, and there's weird squeaky noises coming, and all this weird shit's going on. And they bring through a message, and the message was basically, and now this is before I have consciously accepted the whole intergalactic thing is dancing out here. I don't say no, I don't say yes, I just don't think about it because I just am not comfortable. This is where I'm at. This was only about probably 2 months ago. And this comes through and they say, we need you to know that there is physical and non-physical beings who, with their technology and their intellect, are very involved in humans, in the human development, and they are very benevolent. Now, just think of that sentence: physical and non-physical entities. Physical and non-physical entities that some with their technology, some with their minds, they are able to interact with humans in a benevolent way. Well, I was okay with that. And then they went on to say, but we also need you to know that there are benevolent and not benevolent, physical and not physical entities that with their technology and their intellect are very involved with humans, and they are not benevolent. And when they said that, I did this kind of shit. Why are you saying this to me? I don't need to know this. I don't want to know anything about this. Get the hell away from me. I don't want to hear about this. But then they settled. They always, I can feel my angels will hug me. They pull their energy around me and I can feel them. So I know they're there, and I'm like, okay, this is one of those for my highest good things, right? And it's like, yeah, okay, here we go. And I'm like, all right. And so they kept going, and they said, humans, when we are in meditation, when we are connected like this, we can be very clear in what we are feeling. But when your children and your grandchildren and your friends and you're out and about and you're doing and you're going and you're in life gets busy, and it's like it's static. It makes the vibration harder to read. And they said that I needed to understand and not ever push past my gut. And I'm like, okay, I'm like trying to understand what they're trying to tell me. They said, do not let yourself push past your instincts, your gut. They said that's how the non-benevolent beings can frig with you and bring things into your experience that you don't want to have. And I'm like, okay, so that happens. Then there was the pixie dust moment. The pixie dust moment was when I had an experience shortly after the Kevin Moore show where a woman, she wasn't I don't believe a bad woman, but she reaches out to me via a message. And the minute I read the message, my whole gut said, ooh, nope. But then she kept coming at me. Oh, but you're a being of love and light, and you are so good. And I just need to be, I don't have any money, but I want to have a session with you. And absolutely played on my heart. And so I do have a session with her. She don't hear any of it. I did brought through a beautiful light language message. they even said to her, and it made me very uncomfortable because I don't like them to be so blunt, but they said, as long as you are in the energy of being a victim, you will always be a victim. All of this comes through in this thing. Time passes and she's fine within my experience. I send her links to my events and stuff pro bono, just, because I'm hoping to help her. And then I'm with a friend. I'm driving home from an event, just an outing, my girlfriend and I. And we had some drinks. We'd gotten home, we'd had some drinks. And my phone dings and I see it's a message. So I click on it. I see it's a message, but it's a big, long message. But I clicked on it. So she knew I'd opened it. But I've had some drinks. I'm not going to participate in work like this if I've had drinks. So I just don't do it. The next day, when I remembered, I clicked onto it and there are all these friggin' messages. Why are you ignoring me? Why are you this? Why, how come you've forsaken me? But all this, just blah, all this bullshit. So I go, oh, this has got stalker written all over it. And I put a thing out and I block her on my media. And I bless her on her path. But if you are not within the frequency of somebody, you can't hear their message. It's as simple as that. That's all. It's as simple as that. So she then emails me. And I was feeling that feeling like, oh, I should explain to her that we just aren't a frequency match. And they hit me with the pixie dust. And it was like, pew, 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 all these pictures, just the day at the house, the day, all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's what they meant. That's what they meant. I'm pushing past my instincts are that I am not a match to her, but I'm feeling sorry for her and I'm feeling bad for her. And so I'm going to push past and have more interaction, opening that door between us. And that was a very gentle, but I was paying attention. You only get the tap. If you listen to the tap, you only get the tap. If you don't listen, you get the hit. And then if you don't listen, you get the 2x4. I listened to the tap and I'm like, now I get it. And I think I want to share it on this forum because they wanted me to. They dropped it in that for people moving forward, we are all about love and light, and we do not have to worry about great, or at least I don't have to worry about great rituals of protection or anything, because in the presence of light, there cannot be darkness. As simple as that. However, they can be sneaky. So because I had taught, fear has been a big part of this for me. Overcoming fear has been a huge part of this. I was afraid that the devil was going to get me. I was afraid. So I say this to empower people because they give you the guidance. If you listen to your heart, you listen to what resonates, you go, just like when I happened on to Todd, I'm clicking through and I see your face. And the minute I see your face, I just have a knowing. I have a knowing. It's that little tap. You ought to check him out. So I follow the breadcrumbs and I send you a message. And here we are. Follow the breadcrumbs of those taps. That's how they work. That is how they work. And you don't have to be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. But what they said, they used the example with me because, again, Pollyanna, they said, would you drive your car down a city street and park it without locking it? And I said, no, I'd lock it. And they said, well, then you're just thinking that somebody's going to steal your car? Well, no, I know all good things coming to me. That's right, they said. They said, it's just a gentle practice that you do. You don't walk away from your pocketbook in your grocery cart. You pick it up. Not that you're out of fear that someone's going to be grabbing your purse, but it's the habit. They said, these are the habits that we are going to teach you that are going to just make you be able to navigate this world, this intergalactic world, with absolute confidence and comfort. So I just thought that was worth repeating. Yeah, I can't hear you again.
I was trying not to make noise. Yeah, no, I just think that's something that we all go through. I mean, this is, yeah, I like to remind myself, don't take anything personal, but this is a very personal journey. So it's really me and the universe. And that's it. I mean, everything else is symbology. It's showing me things. It's a reflection of me. I had this conversation with my daughter last night. Listen to a story, and she's all ears, 21 years old, but and then she sent me a note this morning, thanks for the talk, because she got it, underneath what's being shown underneath. And I think ultimately, obviously, this whole thing with dark and light, it's the basis of our journey. It's the basis of because there is a huge difference between duality and polarity. Duality is some ingenious divine orchestration that we cooked up so we could forget and dive deep and therefore ascend to a higher level. But yeah, I think it's and it's certainly something that's been embedded.
Well, what's polarity?
Polarity is positive, negative. Polarity is masculine, feminine. Polarity is black and white, day and night, sun and moon. But duality is an inversion of an organic structure that's basically distracting and distorted. This is where this is the, I mean, I speak to the last 12,000 years, I mean, I don't really know what occurred before then, but there's a lot of narratives that fall in line with this, both in these conversations and otherwise. But that's what I understand. That's what I see happening, or see what we're transforming. If you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, Nag Hammadi, they speak a lot about the archonic influences, which cannot manifest anything, but they can present, kind of like television, tell live vision, programming, in anything else that's orchestrated, like the mainstream media, history. These are presentations. These are suggestive programming, suggestions. So much of these are suggestions. It was suggested about COVID. It was suggested about vaccines. It was suggested about 9/11. It was suggested. I mean, you've got entire large segments of the populace that believe the Warren Commission. I mean, a single bullet magic theory. You've got, but all these things put out with purpose. Duality is not some curse. The Earth story is not some intrusion or interference against God, if you want to put it that way. It's a container. That's a construct. That's one of many, many infinite constructs. That's probably the coolest place to be, based on everything I've picked up over the years. The biggest challenge for the soul, the toughest school, but also the biggest opportunity of potential. It's an extraordinary time, especially when you consider all the prophecies and sacred texts that point to this time in the oral traditions. But yeah, I think that the light and dark thing is, I mean, for me, I came to terms with them in 2016. I've been tested again, but I come across anything dark. I open my heart to it. I've got no fear with it, but that's me. I'm not advocating that for anyone else, because I'm on a different path maybe. But I will say that, yes, anything that comes our way is meant to come our way. Yeah. Now, if it's because we're not listening to the subtle hint,
right,
then we'll figure it out. And then we'll start to listen to the subtle hint, and we'll have less fluctuations, or let's just say less extremity of fluctuations in our experience, because we all would like to have ease and grace. You know what I mean? Mm. But I feel like that this is a big issue. I mean, if you know what I mean. I mean, this is huge. It's not about, hear a lot of narratives will be like, well, justice will be served. We're going to hang everybody at Guantanamo Bay. We're going to burn the Vatican down. I mean, justice will be served finally. I don't, because everything will be disclosed. I don't feel like the purpose of awakening is to awaken. Therefore, I don't feel like the purpose of our experience, or let's say the top priority, is disclosure. It's what are we going to do with this information? What are we going to do when we have this side and that side, and we represent both? I don't see the 0 point field as some thin blue line. I see it as the entire field from one end to the other. We are that. So some kind of extraordinary, acceleration of consciousness is occurring. That's pretty much like your morning today. You go to bed. I used to tell myself this in the first 2 years. You go to bed. Ascension's a scale of 1 to 10. That's taken on a daily basis. Say I get to 10. Today's Monday. I wake up on Tuesday, and now the 10's a 1, and there's a new scale of 1 to 10. So therefore, there's a higher truth every day.
Absolutely.
And this is why I revere the ego as the construct that it is, implant that it is for this particular experience and maybe beyond. That's why I ask the questions, is because I consider it the universe's great equalizer, and everything's a paradox. So what is the value of what's been shown to me and what's been processed through me? And so, in other words, it's not all fluffy love and light. There is, you look at the shadow until there is no more shadow,
Right.
because it wasn't real anyway.
That's right. And then all of this said, you got to get up in the morning, you got to get yourself to work, you got to feed your kids, you got to pay your bills, you got to, we also, in the midst of all this woo-woo, you have to live your life.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I struggle a little bit with, it's about judgment is what it boils down to for me.
Exactly.
Judging myself that I shouldn't still be human. I do feel that I am a channel for pure, beautiful love and whatever, God, I don't, whatever, all of it. And so it makes me get mad at myself when I get mad, and it makes me get mad at myself if I have a bitchy day, and
Right.
And it's like, you know what? I'm human. And I honestly, I do absolutely agree and believe that every person has the ability to do this.
Absolutely.
Why did I all of a sudden be able to open up and awaken? I don't know. I don't know why, except that I did. And so now I'm still just going to be Kelly. And I kind of think that if
that's
being
funny.
chosen for something, it's like I'm the poster child for just being a regular woman,
right,
with a regular life, doing her regular shit, and I can talk to the angels.
Yeah. Well, I've always understood, that what we experience, what we download, what we channel is meant for us first and foremost.
Absolutely.
Now, the fact that it's shareable, that's a great thing, and that's the way it should be. There's nothing hoarded. There's nothing, coveted to a degree that you don't want to share it. I mean, this is part of the energy we're pulling in. So that's why I've always lived by the, as the individual goes, so goes a collective. What you're doing for yourself, you're doing for everyone. And
Todd,
that works both ways. You know what I mean? That works.
One of the very first teachings that they gave me was around understanding and healing the inner child and creating this relationship within yourself between you and you.
Right.
Learning to look to yourself in a little bit of a different way, learning to look to yourself for what you need in any given moment, being the adult to that child in this moment, that Kelly is here to take care of Kelly, that I have everything I need to take care of this person right here, and that's my job, and that's a priority. And they gave me some wonderful knowings around that. And one of the first things that they gave me was, they said that this is the first time in history that your normal everyday Joe has enough access to information and education to even be able to comprehend the idea around your subconscious mind. I mean, no, we're not talking spirituality now, we're talking psychology, that we have a subconscious mind. We now know that many of those ingrained things are laid down, even just talk strictly human, no past lives, no nothing, just in this incarnation, that from the age of 0 to 7 to 9, all of the crap that is running in your head all the time is laid down. So what was happening to you when you were just a little kid? This is now known mainstream. People, very uneducated people, understand that concept. You have that truth, then give them the internet and put people out there like me and you that are bringing through, beautiful information and education. My YouTube channel has all kinds of things about healing the inner child and processes and methods and techniques and all this kind of stuff that they've given me, because they said, I believe that for me, for my journey, I had to do some of that human healing.
Right.
And I like how you worded it. I can't quite remember how you said that, but the encoding of the human healing and releasing some of that stuff in order to make the space for this good stuff to come in, for these abilities to open up. When I was stuck in that inner child belief of not being wanted and not being worthy, how could I possibly have opened up to the cosmic realms that I've opened up to, because I didn't feel like I was worthy enough to. I couldn't get past that. So I had to do that healing. So for me, I think awakening is going to happen in a couple of lots and lots of different ways. But one way is the way that mine has been, with a kind of a gentle, slow, and then boom. But boom, not because there was the catastrophic death or the near-death experience or the big thing that took me to my knees. It was a more gentle thing. It was a slower over time thing. But I had to heal my inner child. I had to do some of that personal human work before the opening could really.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think it's important. I think that's important to say, because you can't jump over it. I do one-to-one sessions with people, and people are beautiful and they want to be of service. And so that, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to serve? Just what you just said, Todd. It starts with you. Serve you. Learn how to serve you. Yeah.
I think the way that you brought that down too, to judgment. A lot of times we connotate judgment with judgment of others. But the fact is, I think and I think it's a good point too, as far as the masses being able to be at a level of consciousness. You could even say the accessibility of Christ consciousness, or sacred union, or so many other ways to say it. But oh my God, I just lost. Oh, that you were talking about the judgment thing. I mean, I feel like that this is where we're at. We're conscious enough to be conscientious enough to put judgment where it belongs. It doesn't belong where we're going. Judgment at this point is a perpetration. It's a perpetrator energy. because it creates a superiority or an inferiority. And
Absolutely.
so we're conscious enough now, we don't need to go protest and boycott and march. I feel like it's really come down to our self-management, our self-accountability, self-responsibility, and not with a bunch of pressure, because all this stuff is falling away if we'll engage it, if we'll actually engage it, because this soul energy, what I call the I am soul or Soulology or Holy Spirit, it works when you use it. If we're gonna latch on to the old loops and the old belief systems, prejudices and biases and programs of narcissism and sociopathic, all kinds of things, all kinds of disorders and mental conditions that are just extrapolating the narrative and the labels and the roles and the bullshit. It's really a simple thing now. It's a profound simplicity. We've just coming out of a very a paradigm constructed by the finite mind and its extensive complications. That this work that you're talking about, this work with the self, the human self, the psyche, the subconscious, it's an absolute. You don't get. That's a good thing too. Is when you, for every degree of accomplishment and alignment that's attained, you get higher sensitivities, skills, memories, abilities, talents, whatever you want to call it. More lines on your switchboard, whatever you call it. We have gone over quite a bit. Thank you for sitting with me. Because we have another show starting in 16 minutes, but I've got to meet with the people in 6 minutes.
Oh, you better get your butt moving.
So, oh yeah, it's
So now, will this go out on your YouTube or are you?
This is what we'll do. I'm going to give you a copy, an editable full-length MP4. You can put it out wherever you want to, anywhere you want to. We put ours are on the network. We were told to come March 1st, leave everything behind. 6,000 video productions, leave behind. And so we've started over in a different container as guided and directed. We do put out 1 or 2 shows a week, spotlighting them. And we also are premiering a lot of new shows right now. We've got a bunch of collaborators coming on. So we put the first episode, the premiere of each show, is put out on all of our social media platforms. What we are doing is, and I'll show you real quick, what we are doing is let's see. We're coming out very quickly with, let me go back. Where am I at? How do I get there? Okay, here we are. We're going very quickly with an app, and the app will be free to the public. And where this video logo shows, we will have excerpts from all of our original programming, whether it's been shared on social media or not. But as a rule of thumb, originators on this network, we don't share, to keep that integrity intact of what we were guided to keep this kind of clean, which never having a rule at Soulology in all these years, it's something I had to kind of get used to. But my understanding is it won't be forever, because my understanding is that social media itself is going to collapse because it's dualistic. But again, this is where all of our, and I've got 9 shows now to load, but this is where all of our original material shows up. The public page that I was showing you everybody will have access to that 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365 days a year. Excerpts are constantly, obviously uncensored, obviously updated because of the constant material. We look to be generating about 300 excerpts a week before the end of this month. So that's kind of what we do now. All the shows that we have over here to the left, they're developing their own channel, you could say, where they interact, where they archive their material and they interact with their audience. And there's some other things that we're bringing to this as well, which will be a full-blown social community. So there's really 4 parts. There's the content, there's the social community, which will probably be the biggest thing. And then there's the database, and then there's the actual software. Those would be like the four legs of the table, but the social community will be a combination of like YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Etsy, and your own website all in one place. Everything connected, all the algorithms working in our favor. This has been downloaded for over 10 years. And so it's now starting to come to fruition. But yeah, so I'll give you a copy. You're welcome to put that up anywhere you want. Full length excerpts, YouTube, Facebook, websites, wherever you want to put it. We will be releasing excerpts of all of our shows onto social media. We're working on this now. We're just now getting into the very first few steps. It's a lot of work, but we are going to flood social media with excerpts from every single show that will further expand awareness of people like you. So that's kind of how we're set up.
Thank you.
And I'm glad I was able to explain that, because a lot of people are asking me
How like I saw that thing on Pamela's site. I'd love to be able to be involved in some of these, like when you're all just talking about stuff. And
yeah.
is that
Well, I mean, one of the
possibility, or-
things, yeah, one of the things is I'm encouraging everyone that wants to be, I call them sole producers, anyone that's interested in creating a show that originates here on this network that follows those guidelines we just said. Now, I encourage every hostess to give a full-length editable copy to any guest that comes on. That keeps our container clean, but it also allows us to kind of work through it with a transition, you could say. But if you would like to be involved with, I mean, there's a lot of options here. Like if you resonate with higher vibrations, and now I've told you through this show, they have a couple of groups that meet every week. That might be something you contact Pamela directly on. If you're interested in producing a show and developing collaborative creations with some of the people involved, which is what you saw, because technically higher vibrations, that's her show. But for the last 2 weeks, she's asked Elsa and I to sit in with her. Okay. But Elsa's actually got her own show that she's coming out with. My understanding is that this, and we have a great IT partners. They've been very, very benevolent and just supportive of us. They realize that we're onto something that's very, very unique. But there's no limit on the number of shows that we can put out there. So right now,
would there be, like, do you think should I reach out to Elsa and Pam like I did you and get it?
You could. I mean, you
Okay.
could. I mean, it's whatever you want to do. If you're interested in doing something along the
I'd love
lines
to have
of,
a conversation like this with both of them would be great.
yeah, I'm sure they're probably, Pamela was watching this earlier. I'm not sure if she's still on, but yeah, I mean, yeah, sky's the limit. Soulology is a platform that just connects people. We've done it for 12 years, and there's shows, and there's groups, and there's marriages, and there's friendships, and all over this world. The impact has been far beyond what the metrics.
I need people. I need my tribe to keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
I need people that I can, because when these things happen, like this morning,
Yeah.
I need people to process it with,
Yeah, I think above all, like the messages I've gotten over the years, and the comments and emails, the number one thing I would say that people say to me is, I thought I was the only one. I found my family, I found my tribe, and I really noticed it when we left social media, because I got inundated with messages from people that were just saying, this has been a lifesaver.
So if I go to the Soulology website, that's where I'm going to find like some of this community.
If you go to the soulologynetwork.com,
Yeah.
Anybody can go in and they can register. Doesn't mean they're subscribing. Subscription is $12.12 a month. But they can go onto the site. They will be able to watch these excerpts once we get them loaded. That's free. They'll be able to use the app if they want the app. That's free. And then they'll be able to view, like they would be able to view this, but they wouldn't be able to interact with probably 95% of it. They'd have to be subscribed.
I got you.
Now, another thing that's kind of interesting right now is we're doing the Soulology Fest, and we're kind of combining it with the expansion of the network. And what we're doing there is everybody that's coming is a membership. We're giving a membership away. That's a very, like, if you're already an annual member, it's $199. But if you're a monthly member, we give a 12-month membership with a very good price for a 3-day festival. If you're a non-member, you get 6 months, but it's actually cheaper to go pay the $144, become an annual member, then come buy this ticket. So we're getting a lot of the subscriptions are increasing very steadily since we announced this. And I haven't put a lot behind it because we got a lot going on, but we've got over almost 4 months still. So every day it's a little bit more. And one of the things about the festival is just like the network, and that is that, the theme of it is everybody is a star. So if you're coming and you want to be a presenter or a performer or lead a workshop, then bring it on. It's also family oriented, drug and alcohol free, etc. But and then the other thing too is the network itself and the festivals, both past and this one, they're built on a template, what I call a 5D commerce template that the Arcturians started downloading with me in 2018, which is based on the 369. And basically a third is cost, a third goes back into redevelopment, back into the energy of Soulology or whatever, or the fest or whatever. And then a third goes to the content creators. And that's something that we shared liberally the last 2 Soulology Fests, and we're implementing with the network once we get to 3,333 people. But just to give you an idea, 10,000 people, which I believe we'll see by next summer, could be as early as the spring. That's a budget of $1.5 million a year. 500,000 of that will go to the content creators. So if somebody has 6% viewership, they would get $2,400 worth of abundance for the month doing something they love doing. So there's a lot more to it than what it looks like. But yeah, Soulology is a great place to come and find like-minded people. The Facebook group is pretty strong. There's, I think, 60,000 people in there. The page, the studio page, I think there's another 30.
Yeah.
You can hang around my page. You can go to the YouTube. We started late on YouTube. There's about 15,000 people there, but we don't do a whole lot. I mean, it's not like it used to be, but yeah. But I mean, I think, the network is that's really above all else. It's a place, it's a place where you'll meet 80 to 85% of our community is exactly like all the communities and really the world. It's a female 45 and over that's tech challenged. And many of them have been in the state you're in for 20, 30 years. And they've all been waiting for this time. And you don't see them a lot on camera. So yeah, you'll get tremendous connection with that type of thing. So Check us out. I got to go. They're texting me and I'm already.
All righty, bud. Hey, it's been a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I look forward to future collaborations.
I hope so. If you think of something that I could be a part of, let me know.
Sounds good. Take care.